Before we begin, I just want to take a second to introduce ourselves. Yeah, so as Lo said, my name is Nikayle Govender, and I am Construction Technology Specialist and Modena AEC and Infrastructure. So part of my day-to-day is that I sit with developers, let's say project managers, and we look at how we can digitize their project site, and we help them basically create these digitized project sites, and we help them develop a governance over it so that at the end of it they have a fully digitized platform for handover. Okay, so I think it's a big question that people ask today is AI coming? And I think this is the wrong question to ask, because that's the ODS. It's not coming, it's already here as a matter of that. I think the question that we should be asking is what is genuinely useful right now, what is likely coming next, and what should our teams actually be doing. And that's what Yasha and I are going to be unpacking for everyone today. So if we look at the real problem, a lot of people will say that our construction teams don't actually have enough data. And I think we've heard it here today. But I see that as a myth. The real problem lies in the fact that our information is usually scattered. We are inconsistent workflows, disconnected tools, and unclear ownership. So in a lot of places, we see that people have the platforms. They're making use of the platforms. They're uploading things are getting approved, things are getting reviewed, and they have their issues and their workflows going. But the problem is that this doesn't necessarily mean that everything is happening with clarity on their platform. Okay? So the idea is that this is where the AI conversation begins on our side. This is where we start taking basically a more structured platform like OKS Construction Cloud, and that's where we start implementing AI, and we just make sure that basically the information that we have on this platform is structured enough for AI to understand it and give us the information that we need. So in actual fact is that before AI gets clever, the data that we're feeding it needs to be coherent, and that's where we come in. So I've spoken about what's not working and what you need to fix, but let's also speak about what is already working and what we're already capitalizing on. So the good thing is that we're already seeing value in what we're currently doing. I know a lot of people don't realize it, but it may be done in a very small way, but we are already using AI in a lot of what we're already doing on our digital platforms. And we see this through the fact that by us implementing better digital workflows, we create improved visibility. And that's due to the correct use of the common data environments such as Autodesk Construction Cloud. So when teams use platforms such as Autodesk Construction Cloud, they're already generating the project data that we need through the use of forms, issues, assets, and schedule. And once that data is structured properly, we're able to take that data and we're able to turn it into things like dashboards for reporting so that the project teams are able to see what they need to see in terms of the project. And that's important because it's important for us to remember that dashboards aren't just pretty pictures for executives. Our dashboards act as a bridge between our platform activity and management insight. So if you look at grounding this more practically, it's about turning your project data into usable visibility. Okay? And that includes things like thinking about how we accurately capture information, how our workflows are structured, and how reporting and dashboards can service what actually matters to our project teams. So when you look at DMs and PMs, that usually looks like they are able to now see quicker where our workflows are yet to stop. They're able to identify things that are being overdue quicker. They're able to track our documents activity, and they can understand more accurately where our issues are sitting. And this helps them see the trends across our projects. And that's what's powerful because it shifts our teams away from a more manual process. So instead of asking 5 people what's happening in the project, they're able to basically be creating an environment where the data is able to speak to us and the data is able to tell us what's actually going on. Okay, and obviously it can't tell us everything that's going on because it's not magic, but the fact is it gives us enough information to support faster and better decision making. And we all know time is heavy. So it's not about hype, it's just about better visibility on our projects. So this is where AI starts becoming more relevant and we start looking at the opportunity within AI. And we can look at dashboards to tell us basically what's happening, and AI starts to help us interpret what matters, what needs our attention, and in some cases even helps us identify what may or may not happen next on our sites. So the real opportunity with AI is not about jumping directly from the messy project data environments to this big fancy technological tool. Okay, it's about looking at the path that we take to get to AI to help us make project decisions. So what it looks like is that we have our digital workflow. We take that digital workflow, we create structured data from that digital workflow. From that data, we're able to create dashboard insights, and from that dashboard insight, that's where we start using AI to help us in assisted decision making. And the keyword there is assisted. AI is not making the decisions for us, but it's helping us identify what's happening so that we're able to make our decisions more coherently. And the idea is that once information is being captured more consistently, AI begins to add all of that value that we need. And we see it in ways such as it helps us summarize our project statuses, it helps us identify the catalysts in delays on a project, it helps us flag our bottlenecks, highlights abnormal workflow behavior, and it helps us surface overdue actions, as well as help us query the project information much faster, so we're able to act faster on all of this. So the idea isn't that AI is replacing, she's not replacing the PMs and DMs on site that are making these decisions. It's that it's reducing that friction in the admin that we have in this decision making, and it's improving the support behind our decision. And that's where the most valuable insights on AI sits for us right now. It's not something big, it's not something wow, but it's everything that's happening in the background. So I'm going to now hand you over to Nikayle, who is going to expand more on this using a case study.
Okay, so we had a client, or we have clients we're working with, and with this case study, I'm going to go specific to basically talent coordination. I'm not sure if we have any development managers here and project managers as well, but talent coordination basically is a simple process. I'm not sure if, for those that have been in the talent coordination space, it's a very complex process in the commercial developments because multiple tenants, consultants, and base build teams must coordinate approvals and compliance. So what we had to do is basically data collection, what she was talking about in terms of data collection. Which platforms do we have right now for data collection? That's your ACC and all the other platforms that everyone was talking about just now during the day. So the challenge is where to identify the challenges that the client was facing, which is number one, we're looking at fragmented communication across emails and shared drives. I think this is a problem in construction in general. No central locations or tenant drawings and approvals, difficulties in tracking design sign-offs, and asset information collected late or inconsistent. You have handover documentation incomplete or delayed as well. Okay? So the next thing that we had to do was to determine the project objective audience. All right, so with digital transformation goals, you're looking at, we had the goal of implementing Autodesk Construction Cloud, and what we wanted to do with this was to centralize tenant documentation, create structured approval workflows, and standardize tenant submission processes, and then capture asset information throughout the construction project, and then enable a digital handover to property management. And then the platform strategy that we used here. So we used these tools that they have. You're using the docs module of ACC, build, assets, design collaboration, forms, and templates. With regards to docs, you're looking at, this is where all the consultants are sharing information, and this is basically the hard drive of this entire operation. And then under build, that's when we're now using workflows and issue tracking. This is also where assets come into play, where even to the extent that architects will have to load assets into their Revit models, and then they'll be taken into ACC, capture these assets. And we have other workflows with regards to assets as well. I will talk about that just now. So rather than implementing everything at once, we focused on tenant coordination, workflows, and asset capture. Is the key areas for transformation. So this is for data capturing and also trying to make tenant coordination a bit more efficient than it currently is. All right. So the tenant coordination workflow basically goes like this. You're looking at you have tenants, they upload drawings to ACC. So these are some of the workflows that we had to identify and see how we can push them through the platforms in order to create that data we're talking about. So tenants, the tenants, they upload the drawing to ACC, and then we have workflows. The workflow processes automatically reroute the submission process onto the base build architects, who will then review, or the architects, all the consultants basically will get to review those drawings, and then comments, the issues captured, approvals, and reviews may be requested, and revisions, sorry, will be requested through the platform. So everything is basically happening through the platform. All right, I think the next one now was the design approval workflow. So this is what I was talking about. This is just the general team coordination workflow. Right now, the design approval workflow, you're looking at, you have, under the tenant submission, you're looking at this, the base build and the tenant design sign-off. Right? You've got ACC workflows, they will ensure a structured approval workflow, where the approval workflows that you're looking at is tenant submission, architect review, services, engineers reviews as well, landlord approvals, and final design sign-offs as well. And the benefits of this is clear responsibility matrix and digital audit trail. ACC is, every time when we go and onboard people on ACC, they always say ACC is a bunch of drones. It's spying on people because everything is captured. And I think when it comes to something like tenant coordination, where you're dealing with assets, you're dealing with base build assets and tenant assets, it's something, it's stuff that is very valuable. There's a lot of money involved, and you don't want to be pointing fingers in that. So you need a clear responsibility matrix, and you need that digital audit trail for that, and faster turnaround times. The next one was issue tracking and coordination. So managing tenant design issues using ACC. This helps in design clashes identified early. We are looking at comments attached directly to drawings through ACC, markups and stuff, tasks assigned to the responsible consultants through issues, and everything is happening live. You get notified on your phone, on your iPad, or your computer, through emails, and a bunch of other communication ways that we have. And the outcome of this was reduced coordination delays between base build and tenant teams. All right, so after all of this, you have basically constructed, you're done, and the tenant is moved in. What's next? You now need to have a strategy when it comes to assets and asset data strategy, basically. Capturing assets information early is very important as well. You're looking at asset data was captured using two main methods for this particular project. We did using revenue model assets, and so basically this is when the architects are busy with their models, or the mechanical engineers. So it depends on what you're considering an asset as a company. It could be HVAC units that you have here. It could be lights. It could be a number of things. So when tenant is moving in, there are assets that are provided by the tenant, by the landlord, and then there are assets that, let's say it's a shop right that's coming in, taking up space. They will come with their HVAC units and all of these other things. So all of that needs to be captured in order to assist with property, with the management of these things. All right. The next thing we're looking at, with all of this information, we now needed to have a structured data collection process. For assets, load models, you read, basically we had to now distribute to the subbies templates that we generated in ACC, where generally when you issue that template, everyone will fill in the template, what assets have been installed, and when they were manufactured, delivered, and a bunch of other things, maintenance schedules, and all of that will be tied into a QR code that you then paste onto the asset for management purposes. Right. After this capturing of the assets, the next thing will be the digital handover. Asset management and property management integrations by project completion, you're looking at all assets were registered in ACC, which means we have a list we can export, which ones are the tenant assets, which ones are the base build assets, which ones are the assets that need maintenance in the next few years, and all of that. We are looking at documentation linked to each asset has been stored using the review workflows that we were talking about just now, where under the review has been approved, it gets automatically stored into a specific folder, so the handover becomes a bit easier. We're looking at equipment manual stored centrally as well. This allows property managers to immediately access asset data for operations and maintenance.
Okay, so just to this coming, I think that Yashat has spoken about it, where you capture this information. Some our tech and design issues, capturing our asset information, our structured data collection, and our manual management. We take all of these things, and that's where we now begin to do AI reporting, okay? And how we currently are doing this is that on Autodesk Construction Cloud, you have a tool called Insights, and not a lot of people know and make use of, okay? Insights already, if you don't know, implements AI. It is an implementation of AI where it's basic in figuring out the different trends that's happening on your Autodesk Construction Cloud project, okay? So with the use of Insights, what we've created here at Modena is Modena IQ, okay? And that's just an example of what our Modena IQ dashboards look like. So what we do on our end is we take all of that information from our Autodesk Construction Cloud Insights, we look at the legends and how being happening on site, and we put this into a Power BI dashboard that's a live Power BI dashboard. And yet to tell you something, when we first showed this dashboard to project managers, mind blown. Because project managers, they don't want to see everything that's happening behind the scenes. They don't want, they don't want these piles and piles of reports and documentation. They want to see what they need to see. They want to see clearly in front of them, and they want to be able to make decisions off of it, okay? So with our Modena IQ dashboards that we're using, it's basically live data and live information, where, for example, if we click on one aspect of our dashboard, for example, if we look at the issues that are currently happening on our project, it will relate us back to another section of our dashboard that's basically influencing why are there so many issues that have been closed in our project yet. And again, this needs that to just putting your data into your digital platform correctly. So if we create these issues, for example, and we structure this correctly, for example, we can break them down into issues like coordination issues, snag issues, and from there we even break it down further. We're able to see, oh, okay, there were so many snags against this specific consultant, they took this long to actually figure it out, and now you're making better decisions. So it becomes proactive construction rather than reactive construction. And that's where you see the beauty of it. So Modena IQ is something that we're still developing, but so far it's been working well, and people are excited about it because, like I said, our information is right there in front of them, ready to use. They're not going through sheets and sheets of drawing, or they aren't going through documents and piles of documents just to try and find out one problem, just try and pinpoint one problem on site to try to figure out where it started. It's all there currently. But back to you.
All right, let's talk about the key results that we achieved for us. So looking at centralized tele-coordination, faster approval cycles, but then reduced email communications, full audit trails of design approvals, and structured asset data capture. And business value of all of this is looking at improved project transparency. You're looking at better collaboration across teams and seamless transition to property management. The big question is, what's next in all of this? The future of digital construction management. Right, so the next steps basically include integrating digital twins. So with all of this, where the project has been captured through these platforms, where ACC, the common data environments, and assets being captured and everything else, we're looking into digital twins. That's the future of construction, linking asset data to facility management platforms and expanding automated workflows as well, leveraging analytics for portfolio management, and then using platforms like ACC, one that we used to capture this data that we had, basically positions organizations for long-term digital transformation.
Okay, so just to continue from here as to what's next when it comes to AI in construction, everyone gets scared of the fact that AI is going to now run our entire project, and then we get scared of factors, of fact that, for example, if they're on site, how's AI going to stop a human when it comes to health and safety, like we discussed earlier? But it's important to know that AI is not actually going to run in a project, okay? AI is basically just the next layer of practical usefulness within your project, okay? AI becomes a working tool in practical usefulness. And again, I just want to reiterate the fact that it's not about AI taking over doing our jobs, but it's about how we use AI. And if you take it back to years ago, where people were doing hand drawings, and we still get this question up until now, and people feel that they're using that value of being able to draw by hand. But now everyone uses CAD, everyone uses Revit. And when it first came out, people were scared, who were like, CAD and Revit is going to take my job because we don't need draftsmen to do the smart projects, we're going to do it faster. But the fact is, as humans, we're constantly evolving. And if we take it back to an example that Warren had used, we take two horsed carriages, and when Henry Ford came up with the idea of motor vehicle, obviously people were like, oh my God, what's going to happen to us now? But it's a part of evolving as a human, and it's important to know that AI is here, and if we don't evolve with it, we're going to be left behind. Okay, so to continue on what's next, I did mention that on our day-to-day, our job as construction technology specialists lie mainly within the gold and dust environments. So if we look at the near-term opportunities as to where we use AI in our gold and dust environments, it looks like using AI to help us generate quick project summaries from our live platform data, like I showed you we're doing within Modena IQs, flagging workflows that have been sitting for too long. AI will help us identify trends in unresolved issues, RFIs, and reviews. It helps us spot our missing metadata, naming inconsistencies or any general anomalies, and it makes it easier for project teams to question everything in a plain language. So everything's right there in front of them, easily understandable. Okay, so that I said is that instead of digging through reports manually, PMs might also ask things like which workflows have been overdue, which document packages have the most revisions churns this month, and we used AI for clarity, speed, and action on that front.
But one thing is something that AI can't fix. Well, first of all, poor processes, missing metadata. You have inconsistent naming and unclear ownership of stuff. So there's a number of things that AI will not fix that will still need to push on our end in order for us to give it the correct data. And definitely it won't fix teams working inconsistently on the platform. So you need to make sure that each and all your teams are working the same way, that with the same workflows for you to capture this information that we are talking about. We are looking at, and that's why the firms who benefit from AI will not necessarily be the ones chasing a lot of tools. They'll be the ones with the cleaner workflows, better data habits, and clearer rules. You're looking at and stronger digital discipline as well.
Okay, so let's take back to the Modena playbook and let's ask a practical question of what should our teams be doing when they enter the office on a Monday in a way that will help us enable the use of AI more proficiently within our workspace. So here's a few suggestions. The first thing would be to basically standardize your workflows on what matters the most, okay? Because we aren't able to automate chaos, and we can't build AI platforms on inconsistent data. So it would be about cleaning all of that up and standardizing our workflows. Then we would look at improving our metadata and our status discipline, because good data hygiene helps us when it comes to readiness for AI. Okay, we would need to consistently audit our data, and we need to have consistent governance over our platforms to ensure that the data going in is good data, because what goes in is essentially what's going to come out. So if a mess goes in, we're going to get a mess out, okay, and that's where responsibility lies. We need to then make sure that we have visible project dashboards for the people who need it, like our project leaders. And the last thing is that we need to remember that we use AI as a support and not as a replacement.
It's what can better digital workflows and better project data already unlock today, and how does AI build from me?
And I think it's important to know that we already have what we have the project data, we have the project information on our environments, on our central data environments, like what's Construction Cloud. So it's not hype. The possibility of AI is already there. It just depends on how we use it, and it's about taking baby steps. Thank you.